Chapter 12. Bitter Intrigue. After triumphing at Notre Sagesse and gaining the Rainbow Sage's power, Khorne heads to Macarath to recover. However, danger looms.
Your Majesty.
Iago. Listen well.
Of course.
Do as you wish.
Yes. Right.
All right.
Huh? Elise!
Unbelievable.
Azura.
Truly.
No. Hey! Listen up! What was that? Yes. Huh? Once more? Yeah. You have my word.
I see.
Understood.
I've been waiting for this.
Big brother.
Hey.
No! Not a chance! Elise.
Yes.
Korn's choice here has been changed. In the unmodified script, he rejects Ryoma's offer. I'm not really sure what this means for the character. I wouldn't necessarily say Korn has been made more idealistic, but maybe you'd call him more self-sacrificing?
It's not over yet.
Time for some killing.
It's over now.
Nope.
I'm Laszlo.
Hi, I'm Perry.
That makes sense.
In Birthright, if you marry any of the Hoshidan royals, you find out that Ryoma has known all along that you aren't blood-related. Thankfully, this rewrite doesn't incorporate that detail at all. I think we're meant to understand that Ryoma truly believes what he's saying.
Big brother! Come on, smile for me. It's true. Right. Thank you.
The courtyard of Palace Macarath is one of this game's most interesting maps. It's pretty intimidating at first, but when you start to understand it, it becomes really engaging, dynamic, and relatively easy to handle. As usual, you just want to take a direct, offense-oriented approach. Of course, this challenge being what it is, we are going to overcomplicate it to an outrageous degree. The boss is Ryoma. He's not hugely different from his Chapter 6 incarnation, except that he's a lot faster now. He does get Vantage this time, and he also has Inspiration to improve the stats of his minions. Defeating him is one of the victory conditions, with the other being to have Corrin escape behind him. Naturally, we're going for the boss kill, but only after defeating everyone else. That'll earn us a secret book, which a certain Wyvern Rider would really like to have. The primary gimmick of this chapter is the vast collection of medicines and poisons stored in breakable pots around the map. When destroyed, the pots will release their contents upon every unit in a 2-tile radius. You can carve a path through the stage by breaking only a few of the pots along the way, but then you have to contend with an array of enemies who are set up to annoy you. There are multiple Shrine Maidens with offensive staves, including this one with Entrap. She warps your units into this side room to be attacked by a pair of samurai and potentially also by the ninjas next door. The samurai aren't too strong naturally, but they're fast and they do have odd shaped, which makes them much more dangerous on odd-numbered turns. Other threats include the Silent Shrine Maiden, the Spear Fighters with Sealed Defense, and the Apothecaries all around this big central room. A couple of them have Potent Potion, which magnifies the effects of the pots, but others have Lunge or even Spendthrift, a skill that makes them deal 10 more damage and take 10 less when they initiate combat. In the middle, we face a gang of ninjas headed up by Ryoma's 2 retainers, Saizo and Kagero. As a pair, they're very fast, and they're pretty strong. Saizo inflicts extra damage when he's wounded using his Pyrotechnic skill. He has Seal Strength to enhance his debuff abilities, and he also has Counter Magic in case you try to attack him with a mage for some reason. At this point in the game, the only way that might make sense is if you're using the Dragonstone to hit his weaker resistance, but don't try that unless you can finish him off in one hit. Also, be wary of the Flame Shuriken. It hits resistance, and Saizo's magic stat is respectable, but rejoice in the fact that he drops that Flame Shuriken, giving us a great new toy to play with once we defeat him. Kagero has some tricks of her own. Shuriken Mastery only matters against Kaze and Felicia, so as long as we keep them away from her, it's irrelevant. But Vantage can certainly catch you out if you're not careful. Grizzly Wound is not a big deal, really, but it's still a nuisance. Kagero's stats are oriented toward physical offense, with higher strength and speed than Saizo, but no magic at all. Usually that would get her walled by armored units like Effie, but the Sting Shuriken is effective against armor, so the most natural and obvious counters are going to be defensive axe units like Wyvern Riders, or maybe a bulky bow user if you have one. I want you to know that the various medicines and poisons on this stage are consistent. They're not random, you can learn what they all do or look them up on the internet, but you don't really have to do that. Sure, you should at least be aware that the pots around the Dragonbane are loaded with poisons, and that the medicines in front of Saizo provide a variety of minor bonuses that you might not want to give to the enemies, but there are only about a half dozen pots whose specific effects are actually worth remembering. 2 of those are the poison pots east and west of the area with Ryoma's 2 retainers. Those both inflict 30% damage. Not a big deal at all, but the knowledge that it's not a big deal is valuable information by itself. Next, there's this medicine pot that provides strength and defense tonics, a very useful resource. Over here is a pot that gives a defense surge, a 4-point bonus that lasts for the entire battle, equivalent to the surges that characters sometimes get when you talk to them in the castle. On the other side, there's a magic surge, not as broadly useful as a defense surge can be, but certainly a major bonus for any magical units you're using. This poison is silence, so just don't break it while any mages are around. And right next to it, there's another defense surge, conveniently located right by our starting positions. With this, we can give a 4-point defense bonus to almost our entire team on turn 1. Since we can stack that with the defense tonics, we can give every unit a huge amount of physical bulk, we can do that almost instantly, and we can do it all for free. The Dragonbane destroys every pot on the map. Because it's surrounded by poisons, using it is scary. Do it anyway. It opens up the whole stage, allowing you to clear a lot of enemies very quickly and relieving you of the need to tiptoe around and trap, and lunge, and spendthrift, and all the other tricks the enemies have. That way, once you get past Saizo and Kagero, the remaining pots become almost completely irrelevant. you will have no reason to care about what they do, at least not beyond the basic fact that the poisons will hurt the enemies a lot more than they hurt you. Part of the overcomplication I mentioned earlier is that we are deliberately weakening Silas, Odin, Baruka, and Kaze by removing Elbow Room, Malefic Aura, Strength +2, and Poison Strike, respectively. That's entirely because we want to farm extra dual strikes, and depowering certain units helps us do that. Baruka is going to use our Master Seal from Chapter 10. If you've thought about the challenge rules for a bit, it might surprise you that we would ever promote someone at such a low level. Remember, the earlier we promote people, the more levels they have to earn in their promoted classes, so any unit who promotes early requires more experience overall. That seems a lot less efficient. However, that way of looking at our training requirements is a bit too simplistic. These early to mid-game chapters can only give us a finite amount of experience. Our goal is to distribute that experience in a way that, to the greatest extent possible, keeps the whole roster on par with or even ahead of the enemy power curve. And if we tried to train every single unit to level 20 before using our Master Seals, that would be impossible. The enemies would promote long before we could, and we'd have a stretch of multiple chapters where our team would be woefully underpowered. With this promotion, we can take Baruka out of that experience race for a long while. She won't need a lot of kills herself, and instead we can use her to facilitate kills for her teammates. And that's why Malignite makes a lot of sense. We're not trying to make Baruka the best unit she can possibly be in her own right. We're mainly trying to give her useful tools to deal chip damage and tank different kinds of attacks. In that respect, Tome Access is fantastic, and Baruka's magic isn't even that bad when she gets to combine it with her personal skill, Opportunist. We will have to raise Baruka to level 12. At that rate, it's worth going all the way to 15 for Trample, which she can pass down to her kid, giving us a unit who will have a fantastic high-level skill early without skipping a whole bunch of levels to get it. For this mission, Elise is not deployable at all, and we've benched Azura, Arthur, and Niles for reasons that we've previously discussed. Now, one of our highest priorities is to complete the support chain between Effie and Mozu while giving them as many levels as we possibly can. At the same time, we want to advance several other supports, especially those involving Baruka. If Effie's friendship with Mozu is the top priority, then Selena's friendship with Baruka is a clear second. I do want to highlight just how blessed Odin has been in Magic. At this level, he expects to have 12, and instead he has 14. In the long run, that may not be entirely good for us. For now, taking away Malefic Aura effectively reverts him to his average. Kaze is back after leaving us in Chapter 5. He is 6 levels higher, with more Shuriken experience, and having added 3, 2, 0, 3, 4, 2, 2, and 3 points to his stat spread since we last saw him. New to the roster is Laszlo, last of the Awakening trio. This is Inigo. Inigo? Anyway, he's a mercenary like Selena, but he's the one who specializes in HP, strength, skill, and luck. Laszlo's personal skill is a unique rally. When he uses the rally command, which we haven't yet seen, he gives nearby allies a small bonus to strength and speed. +1/+1 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you look for them, you will find many situations where that makes a difference. Sometimes it saves you a tonic or eliminates the need for a meal, but in other cases, it is absolutely necessary to hit your speed or strength thresholds. So Laszlo frequently earns a deployment slot with fancy footwork alone. Like Selena, Laszlo has reasonably good prospects as a combat unit, at least in the short to medium term, with nothing more than a promotion to Bow Knight. Selena's better at that due to her superior speed and defense stats, but Laszlo brings the additional rally utility. It's sort of unfortunate for him that he can't use his own rally on himself. Because of that, it's noticeably harder for Laszlo to reach some of the key speed thresholds in maps like Chapter 17. Laszlo's Heartseal class is Ninja. That's an amazing class in general, but Laszlo was not the greatest ninja in the world. He doesn't have the raw speed of Kaze, so he usually needs outside help to double. And compared to other ninja candidates like Silas, he also lacks bulk. That puts Laszlo in an awkward position where he simultaneously needs help with both speed and defense from a para partner, and also wants a mobility bonus. No class provides all three of those things. That said, Laszlo's innate ninja access can be very useful in a draft setting if no lock touch unit is free. What I think is really interesting about Laszlo is his access to useful classes through supports. Cavalier from Xander enhances his damage output and gives him shelter utility. Fighter from Keaton opens up some cool possibilities. Laszlo can get HP +5 for free after promoting to hero, or he can go through Berserker to pick up Rally Strength as part of a Rally Bot set. And then for Marriage, 4 different women give him flying classes, and each of those classes has another useful rally for him to learn. Our second new recruit is Xander's other retainer, Perry. She's another Cavalier, and she carries on the trend we've seen in Nyx and Laszlo, where our second representative of a class is differentiated from the first by their stat spread. Silas leads in skill and defense, and also strength when you factor in Vow of Friendship. Perry has better speed and resistance. Silas was the sword cavalier, starting with D swords and E lances. Perry starts with a higher rank in lances than swords. But overall, discounting their respective personal skills, Perry is fairly similar to an average level 10 Silas. The catch is that Silas can easily outlevel her by now. Ours is level 14 and is superior in every stat but res. Perry's personal skill automatically rallies her own strength, magic, skill, and speed stats whenever she kills an enemy on player phase. It's a powerful effect. You can certainly imagine a Fire Emblem game where a fast cavalier who joins you a quarter of the way through the campaign and who buffs her own offensive stats on every player phase kill would dominate. Conquest is not that game. The biggest problem for Perry is that the window where a grounded melee unit can be very good at combat is closing fast. After Chapter 14, that niche will basically disappear. If you're a physical combat unit and you want to carry your own weight throughout the campaign, you need flight, or daggers, or at least bows. Perry does have some utility with shelter, but after Chapter 14, we will get 2 promoted cavaliers who outclass Perry pretty easily. There are times when 3 shelter units can be valuable, but that's stretching it. So on pure utility, Perry is maybe competing with Silas, and Silas will almost always have more experience, better stats, and most importantly, better support ranks. He has more good routes out of the Cavalier class tree than Perry does, and he can take them earlier than she can. Before the battle starts, we get this blurb from the game telling us the effects of the different supply pots. We've already gone over this, but you can see the specifics here. I didn't explain all of the poisons, however, because that information usually isn't very relevant. The enemies never destroy the pots on their own, and they're labeled as medicine or poison, so we can largely just avoid the poison pots. The only ones that will ever affect us are the ones around the Dragon Vein and the 3 that I specifically highlighted earlier. Silas breaks the poison pot in the center. He doesn't care about the silence effect at all. Baruka and Camilla will fly up ahead while everyone else gathers around the defense pot.
Right next to you.
You are not alone!
I'm not looking for
No
trouble,
hesitation.
Kaze trades with Perry, giving her an iron lance while taking away her iron sword. Perry's initial loadout gives her a lot of problems with accuracy. The iron lance gives her a good alternative to the steel one she starts with, and eventually will give her a bronze sword to replace the iron. The only person in this whole blob who didn't receive the defense surge is Effie. The medicines and poisons only apply to the lead unit in a pair, not the one in back.
It'll be fine.
We won't give up.
As usual, Corn wants to lose half his HP right away so we can activate Vow of Friendship. Because our Corn is exceptionally fast, he doesn't get doubled by the samurai, so this is perfectly safe. Laszlo takes the iron sword that Perry used to have. If Corn needed more speed to not get doubled, Laszlo might be able to get him there using his personal rally. In our case, it's not necessary, and in fact it would be counterproductive because we don't want Corn to avoid attacks. Corn has really taken a back seat since Chapter 10, a trend that will continue through Chapter 13. As a Nohr prince, he still has very good damage output, but with relatively low mobility and currently no access to ranged weapons, the class tends to be outperformed by others. Fortunately, Corn will get his hands on a very good ranged weapon as soon as we build the Tier 2 shops.
Keep your eyes on me.
We stand together! We can do this together!
I'll play.
Camilla drops Silas alongside this wall, where Kagero and Saizo can attack him. Our idea is to separate them from the other enemies. If we lure them over to the right, then they will no longer cover the same areas as the 3 generic ninjas around them. In particular, they won't be able to reach this position above the left-hand pot, and that means we can place another unit beside that pot to fight the 3 ninjas without also having to face the mini-bosses.
Come on.
I'm with you.
I'll protect you.
Kaze has served as the mule carrying the iron sword from Perry to Laszlo, and now he'll take the forged bronze sword from Corrin back to Perry. He has already tag teamed with Corrin once, and now he does it again to make sure they gain 1 support point on this map. Kaze is the only character who can give Corrin access to the ninja class. They already earned a C support with each other in the prologue, but they still need to earn the B and A supports across at least 4 more battles.
Yes.
Baruka is not especially good at magic, but that works in our favor since it lets Kaze provide a dual strike for this kill.
Let's go.
You took my target!
I will protect you.
Can I go first?
Odin breaks the pot that grants a magic surge. Felicia takes parry from him to start building support with her. Felicia could have gotten that magic surge too, but we're foregoing that bonus in the name of greed, as you'll see later.
I'll be your shield.
Effie and Mozu start to form up around the pot with a strength and defense tonics.
How wonderful.
Hurry up and die! Let us out! Fine, I'll protect you. Yay, violence!
Baruka missed out on the first defense surge, but she can get the other one on her own. Selena dispenses another medicine, this time a healing potion. But first she makes Baruka equip the dual club. We want the remaining samurai to attack Selena, not Baruka, and the dual club makes that happen. Since Baruka occupies the woods tile, the samurai can't use that against us either. Everyone else wants to get in on the tonic action with Effie, Mozu, Silas, and Camilla. Odin can't quite get there. Instead, he takes out the spear fighter.
I won't leave you.
You, passed your test. I'll help.
Okay, let's go!
I'll play with you.
We just got 9 strength tonics and 9 defense tonics, a 2,700 gold value, for the low, low price of free. The defense boost matters a lot to Silas. He's about to finish off Saizo, but that will unleash Kagero. She doubles Silas, and she has 25 attack against his 16 displayed defense. But that 16 defense is boosted to 19 by Vow of Friendship, then 20 by Rose's Thorns, and ultimately 22 with Demoiselle. So Kagero only hits him for 3 times 2, and he has 7 HP, so he survives. Silas is supposed to build support with Kaze, so Kaze needs to get over there before Silas makes his attack. Even though Silas is going to choose Kaze's support, he first changes Camilla's weapon, since Camilla will automatically support him on enemy phase, and we'd rather improve her axe rank if possible. That said, we don't want Silas to kill Kagero on the counterattack because we're deliberately sandbagging for extra support points with Kaze, and therefore we don't want Camilla's dual strike to be too strong. The Flame Shuriken is an enormous upgrade for Felicia. It runs off magic, it has huge might for its weapon type, and as a shuriken, it even gives the wielder a 2-point speed boost.
Let me help you.
Against the 3 generic ninjas, our champion is none other than Mozu, with Effie as her second. To make this work, we had to avoid giving the defense surge to Mozu. These ninjas only have iron shurikens, and as a result, they are incredibly weak. In fact, if Mozu was an archer with the exact same stats, the ninjas wouldn't be able to damage her at all because they'd lose their weapon rank bonuses. We would have had to deny Mozu the defense tonic, too. These ninjas may not have a lot of strength, but they don't lack for a void. The javelin is not very accurate, and Underdog doesn't work against enemies at the same level, so these kills are not especially consistent. We just have to live with that and take solace in the knowledge that Effie and Mozu will both upgrade to much better weapons very soon.
it off!
You're strong.
We can do this together! Don't come any closer!
You saved me. No mercy. I'll back you up. Whoa, thanks.
Silas has a problem. He wants to defeat Kagero, but he only has 1 HP, and she has Vantage. She will kill him before he can kill her. If we don't want to spend time healing him, then we'll have to cut Kagero's damage to 0. And that's something we can do, thanks to Corn. Supporter provides 2 points of damage reduction, and his parrot bonus takes care of the rest. Before Silas acts, he must pass the Flame Shuriken off to someone else who can get it into Felicia's hands. Once again, Kaze is the perfect man for the job.
Here to help.
I failed. Again.
I am at your
Kaze was already going to give Perry the forged bronze sword. He just gives her the Flame Shuriken too. Felicia can pick it up right after Perry opens the right-hand passageway toward the spear fighters.
What should we do?
The Flame Shuriken requires a C rank in daggers. Felicia has that rank, but with only 1 point of weapon experience to spare. Also, the reason why we didn't give Felicia the 4-point magic surge is that it would have denied Perry this dual strike. That's it.
Let's get started. Nice!
While Felicia and Perry handle the right side, most of the team will break through in the middle.
I'll protect
If you've already gotten the defense surge and the strength and defense tonics, the central medicine pots are mostly inconsequential, but we'll try to maximize the benefits from them anyway. In the bottom left, there's a resistance surge that hardly matters at all. The middle heals 30% HP. The right-hand pot has skill and resistance tonics. Not too useful, but the skill tonic can mitigate some of the accuracy problems that Effie, Mozu, and Nyx tend to have. Peruka breaks through on the left side. We want her to fight both of the samurai. Her best weapon against them is the dual club, but she can't use that on enemy phase. The samurai have 23 attack, but the dual club would take away their weapon rank bonuses, leaving them with just 21. Peruka has 21 defense, so the samurai wouldn't be able to damage her. Therefore, she must use a regular axe or a tome. But her fire tome can't kill anything, so bronze axe it is, despite the weapon triangle disadvantage. At least Selena can help with accuracy.
Right next to you.
Camilla drops Kaze by the last medicine pot here in the center. We'll break that on our next turn.
Fine. What are you looking at? Don't interfere. Can we start now? Guess I'll do it. Me. Can I fix you?
Yes!
On guard!
We've got trouble!
It's over.
Okay, let's go.
It sort of looks like Perry is exposed to both spear fighters here, but actually the right-hand one can't get to her because there are pillars in his way. And the two spear fighters can only hit her from above anyway, so they would body block each other regardless.
Show me what you got. You took my target!
I'm here to help.
By breaking this last medicine pot, we give defense tonics to Kaze and Odin, who missed out on the first batch. Now almost everyone has +6 defense. The only exceptions are Camilla and Mozu, who missed the defense surge, and Selena and Baruka, who didn't get the tonic. Selena has had plenty of combat with Baruka. Now she wants to swing over to the other side of the map to work with
Show me
Perry.
what you've got.
And this brings up an important strategic concept for this challenge. Whenever we get a new unit, if their intended S and A+ support partners are both on the team already, it's faster in absolute terms if we prioritize the S
My
support.
power is at your service.
However, that approach doesn't always work best. As I discussed in the last episode, if you're trying to build an S support and an A+ support in tandem, that usually means that whenever you're deploying one unit, you're actually deciding to deploy 4. The unit in question, their intended spouse, their friend, and their friend's spouse. Unfortunately, there's a limited number of deployment slots, and those 4-unit pods can become pretty inconvenient. The faster we can break them up, the easier it is to find space for people. So for most of our new recruits, I'm prioritizing their friendship over their marriage. Hence, on this mission, Perry is going for her C support with Selena, Laszlo is mainly teaming up with Odin, and Kaze is trying to get a C support with Silas. I do want to point out how we managed to use Forager for some free healing. I'm not sure that will ever happen
We
again.
can do this together.
We're working hard to boost Perry's sword rank. It doesn't make a huge difference, really, but Perry has more to gain from C rank and swords than from B rank and lances, and the former milestone is closer than the latter. If we intended to use Perry long term, and we were going to keep her in a lance class, then it might make sense to focus purely on lances in the hopes of wielding the Brave Lance in the late game.
We can do this together.
Silas hands Perry the javelin, which he no longer needs.
I am at your service.
Yes.
Let's win this one, all right?
Even with the Brass Naginata equipped, Silas has enough attack power to kill the Spear Fighter on enemy phase. So does Selena when using Silas's dual strike. Because of that, the Spear Fighter has no way to avoid death, so he'll just try to maximize his damage by attacking Selena. In our case, Silas has enough defense to resolve that decision a different way. With Vow of Friendship, Demoiselle, and the Brass Naginata, he takes 0 damage, so he's not a valid target in the first place. So far, we've kept everyone at least 3 spaces away from the wall of pots in the room to the north. On our next turn, we'll trigger the Dragon Bane, destroying every single pot on the map. Most of the containers in the next room have poisons of some kind. I couldn't tell you exactly what, but I know we don't want them. We do want our team to be close enough to charge in and kill all the enemies we can reach as soon as the pots are gone, but we have to keep a respectful distance as we set up.
Remain calm.
Nyx moves out of silence range, ensuring that she will be able to attack next turn. Felicia's not in range either, so the Shrine Maiden with Silence has to choose between Odin and Camilla. From what I can tell, if an enemy with Silence has 2 targets who are each in range of the same number of opponents, then the second tiebreaker is actually the number of tomes or staves the target is carrying, and accuracy is third. Camilla has 2 tomes while Odin only has 1, so between them, Camilla has been the target of choice. But when Camilla and Nyx are both in range, Nyx is the preferred target because her Staff Avoid is much worse.
I'll protect you.
I believe in you.
I'll help. You are in good hand. I won't leave you. Not over yet. I was gonna do that.
Can we do this?
On the left side, we're putting Mozu and Laszlo in range of 2 poison pots. These are the only 2 pots left whose effects I specifically remember. The left-hand one is Silence, which doesn't affect Mozu, and the right-hand one deals damage, which Laszlo can easily tolerate.
Gotta eliminate it.
I'm here for you.
I have faith in you. It's not over yet!
I had it under control.
Not to worry.
Once Camilla hits the Dragon Vein, we'll try to kill every enemy in the next room in a single massive attack. Most of these enemies are crippled, frozen, hexed, damaged, debuffed, or some combination thereof. The spear fighters by Ryoma are stuck, so for the time being, we don't have to worry about them.
All right, let's go. I never lose.
Selena's accuracy against this guy on the pillars is a little unfortunate, but Silas works as backup if she misses. In that case, Perry would be badly wounded, but that's not a disaster.
What are you looking at? Cool.
Together we shall prevail. We have no choice. Stay strong.
For now, we're avoiding Entrap, but we will have to deal with it eventually.
We've got trouble.
I've got your back. Whatever.
Thank you very much.
I'll support you. Who's next?
The chosen hero arrives!
Gotta eliminate it.
Thanks. We stand together!
The only enemy around who's still perfectly healthy is the spear fighter. Odin chips him.
You'll be all right. I'm here to help.
Were you even trying?
I'll protect you.
I can do this.
That went well.
Mozu will fight two ninjas over the wall, and she'll also have to contend with a free staff. These ninjas have steel shurikens, so they're a bit easier to hit, but they also debuff Mozu's strength, so the kill threshold on the second ninja here is significantly more stringent.
I'm not looking for trouble, but...
I believe in you.
I'll be your shield. Not over yet.
Thanks. Yep.
We can do this together. Don't come any closer.
You're strong.
I'll spot you.
The door key we got will allow Korin and the Effie Mozu Nyx triumvirate to go west and take out the Shrine Maiden on the far left without having to go all the way up and around.
Be careful.
Show me what you've got.
Meanwhile, Kaze and Silas have positioned themselves to take on the Freeze Maiden. Despite all the penalties she has taken from the pots around the Dragon Vein, Camilla is almost impervious to damage. She has no problem taking a pot shot at one of the ninjas. If your stats are good enough, the Hex effect really doesn't matter at all.
Go, go! This could be trouble. You need a spanking. I guess I owe you one. Huh? I'll support you. I'll take care of this.
I'll be strong for you.
Come on!
It's over now. The darkness whispers.
It's safest for Odin to use Camilla's dual strike for this kill, but we'd prefer to give the experience to Laszlo. In part because if Laszlo levels up now and gains strength, we'll have some better backup options in case we miss some of our attacks in the upcoming enemy phase.
Not over yet. I have taught you well.
That enemy phase combat will be conducted entirely by Perry. She equips her javelin so that she can counter the ninja and the Kodachi samurai, and she shelters Selena after taking Selena's strongest sword. Felicia has enough movement to reach Perry and heal her. But first she grabs the fresh heal and enfeeble staves that Selena has been hauling around for her. It's relatively unlikely that all of Perry's counterattacks on this phase will hit. But once again, if she does miss, backup options are available.
Yay, violence! Show me what you got! Huh? I knew you'd need me!
The two samurai by Ryoma will never move downward, and therefore only one of them can attack Perry right now.
Alright, let's go! Huh? Don't even think about it! I knew you'd need me!
As we finish off the grunts in front of him, we must be mindful of Ryoma's attack range. And the two Kodachi samurai are perfectly capable of using Ryoma's dual strikes by attacking from the space right below him.
I'm here to help.
It's alright.
Mozu runs up next to the samurai pair and heals herself, since she'll need to be at full HP later on. Effie then wounds the samurai using her javelin, making sure to select Korin as her support partner. Being wounded, the samurai will go into retreat mode to get healed by the Shrine Maiden right above them.
Appearances can be deceiving.
Because the AI does not properly account for the stance system, the paired up samurai think that Mozu can kill them with her own counterattack plus Effie's dual strike. For whatever reason, even immediately after they've been healed, if they think their only target can kill them, they don't attack. It's kind of weird, and I don't totally understand it. As we wait for the apothecary reinforcements to reach us, we're in full sandbagging mode. Felicia does her part by handing off the flame shuriken. Eventually we'll trade it around to Kaze, who can use it to deal pathetic amounts of damage using his 0 base magic and 0% magic growth. If Perry had missed the spear fighter, then Felicia could make up for it now, but that would be rather inconvenient because her defense would be sealed and we'd probably have to shelter her.
I am Fate's accomplice! I'll be strong for you. I'll let it shoot. gonna do that! Ugh, my aching blood!
Hey, it's me.
Let's go!
This is another point where we can make an adjustment in the event of a miss from parry. If necessary, Laszlo can kill either enemy using his steel sword plus parry's steel lance dual strike.
Can I have the wish ball?
Nice moves!
Parry will finish off the ninja using her javelin, but the correct placement of Selena depends on Laszlo's current HP and defense. If Laszlo had not dodged any attacks and had not gained any defense at level 13, then he would have 10 HP and 16 defense right now, with that defense stat being boosted to 18 thanks to Felicia's Demoiselle skill. The samurai has 23 displayed attack, and his damage is increased by Ryoma's inspiration. However, he sees more damage overall when he uses Ryoma's dual strike. For that, he needs the Kodachi, which has 4 less might than the steel katana. So the samurai's actual attack power will be 23 plus 2 minus 4, which is 21. Ryoma himself has 33 attack. Against base Laszlo with his 18 effective defense, the samurai would hit for 3 and Ryoma's dual strike would hit for 7. That would be exactly enough to kill Laszlo when he has the bare minimum HP remaining and hasn't gained any defense. And in that case, we have to transfer Selena to Laszlo to save him from death. But dodging even a single attack earlier in the mission, or gaining a point of def on his first level, both of which our Laszlo has done, will prevent the samurai from seeing lethal damage on him. So in our case, we're better off transferring Selena to Felicia. For the sake of having consistent outcomes for the rest of the mission, we still want the samurai to end up right below Ryoma, but we want to make sure he attacks Laszlo.
Yay, violence!
Since we're not giving Laszlo a para partner, it's important that we make him equip a bronze weapon to eliminate Ryoma's crit chance.
We stand together!
How wonderful.
Kill them all. Not over yet! How shall we proceed?
We can do this together.
Remain calm.
Wielding the Flame Shuriken, Kaze can use Silas's dual strike to wound this Shrine Maiden without killing her. And with that dual strike, this round of combat ensures that Kaze will gain more support points with Silas than Camilla will.
Take all the glory.
Can I go first?
I'll finish this!
Let me help you.
By giving up Effie's support and attacking from the left, Bozu loses some accuracy. That's necessary to give Korn and Effie another chance to work on their support with each other. We want them to have C rank before Chapter 13 so that Effie can benefit from supportive.
I'll do my best.
We won't give up.
Strength is everything. Let me at him.
How'd you do that?
Effie and Nyx will each fight one of the approaching apothecaries. This method is a little bit awkward because it exposes us to a lot of damage, but the upside is that it makes the enemy movement completely consistent. They can't accidentally body block each other.
No hesitation.
The Armor Slayer is very useful in Chapter 13.
Let's see what you've got.
Baruka is waiting inside in trap range. We're doing that on purpose to waste one of its 2 charges. The enemy samurai that are supposed to punish whichever unit gets entrapped cannot damage her at all. They only have 20 attack, 24 on odd-numbered turns, but this is turn 10. Basically, if you're Baruka and you're holding a duel club, this jail is made of tin, and you can walk right out again as soon as you are in.
I won't leave you.
We'll give Selena the kill on this Kodachi Samurai, since she's going to be one of our biggest targets for power leveling after we're done with Mozu. Laszlo takes the weaker bronze sword from her because he might want it later.
What do we just find? Allow me. You all right?
What a fool.
The Kodachi we just got is unique in Conquest. It's the only physical ranged sword that isn't a personal weapon. It's an important resource for any sword unit, but it's pretty weak, and unlike hand axes or javelins, it can never be forged. That's one reason why sword classes are usually rather lackluster for combat purposes in this game.
We've got trouble.
Let's go. What's this?
Yay!
Careful out there!
First to use the Kodachi will be Silas, so he takes it from Selena. As the only unfrozen unit with shelter, it's his responsibility to pull her out of Ryoma's range. In turn, Perry takes Selena and drops her to the north. The two of them will go east together to take out the Entrapped Maiden.
I'll take care of this.
I'll crush them! Don't come any closer!
You saved me. I'm not looking for trouble, but weakling.
Let's do this!
To battle the three apothecaries remaining, Effie must join up with Corrin. Rather than using his full movement to run down and kill one of the apothecaries right away, Corrin will only go 4 spaces southward and then switch, having Effie wait there. Our aim is to feed one of these kills to Mozu and another to Nyx, while also allowing Effie to act independently afterward. The only way we can do that is to wait a little farther north, making the enemies move themselves into Mozu's attack range.
Not to worry.
I have faith in you.
I won't leave you.
Whoa, whoa, whoa!
I am at your service.
So excited!
Now we deal with the samurai pair in the entrap room, and we do it in a way that I really enjoy. Baruka lunges them out of there. Odin's already standing by their destination, so he instantly inflicts Heartseeker, making it easy for Selena and Perry to surround the enemy and kill the lead.
Don't you dare lose!
By using a lance for this job, Perry reduces the enemy's attack power against her, encouraging the samurai in back to attack Odin and not her.
I win.
Selena's the one who should get entrapped. Among the Maiden's targets, she has the worst staff avoid. Note that Baruka is not a valid target because the Maiden is programmed not to entrap anybody who is already inside her room. And the samurai ordinarily will prioritize returning to that room over attacking, but not if he's prevented from getting back in a single move. In our case, Perry would block his way even if Selena were kidnapped.
I'm with you.
This would be so much more comfortable if supportive were in play.
Well fought.
I'm here to help. Here I am.
How wonderful.
You need a sensor. How very annoying.
For Mozu to get the javelin back, Nyx will have to take it from Effie. And because Effie had heroic accuracy, we don't need her dual strike either, so Nyx can grab the bronze lance as well.
I can do this.
Phew.
Strength is everything.
I'll go with you.
This is the first time that Mozu and Nyx will battle together on this map. We'd like for them to get 2 support points, and there are only so many enemies left for them to fight, so we have our work cut out for us.
What do you know?
Selena moves to support Perry, and also to not support Baruka, who can use her fire tome for some additional chip damage.
Can I have the wishbone? Fine, I'll protect you. Is that all your blood?
We stand together.
Kaze reunites Odin with his bro Laszlo. Kaze still has to open the other treasure chest, but he can do that next turn. Laszlo and Odin will continue the fight against the last 4 apothecaries.
Together we
To do
shall
that,
prevail.
Laszlo needs the Kodachi.
I will protect you.
I'll help you.
More pests.
My aching blood! I won't leave you. Here we go.
I'll do my
Effie and Mozu maneuver themselves closer to
I'll do
Ryoma.
my best.
No mercy.
In a moment, Nyx will want to have the most accurate tome available. Baruka gives her fire tome to Mozu, then drops Mozu to the south. Nyx pairs up with Corrin, then takes the fire tome from Mozu and uses it to kill the nearest apothecary. After this, Nyx will have earned 1 support point with Corrin by battling together with him twice, and she will also be closer to a second support point with Mozu. To get that second point in just 1 more round of combat, she and Mozu will have to not only support each other, but also execute a dual strike or dual guard.
Appearances can be deceiving.
I won't let you down.
Because we remove Malefic Aura from Odin, Laszlo gets this extra opportunity to dual strike.
We're not alone. Not over yet. You, passed your test.
It'll be fine.
I won't leave you. How about a two-step?
Careful out there.
Not to worry.
Can we start now?
Since we don't plan to end the mission for at least another turn, we don't have to kill the Shrine Maiden immediately. Instead, we can have Perry soften her up using her javelin, then finish her off later.
You dare
Perry still wants a hit bonus from Selena's support, but she doesn't want Selena's dual strike.
me? Come on!
Show me what you've got. On guard! I'm here for you!
Ready to go. Oh, can I help? Go,
We'll be just fine. Darkness whispers. I was here first. Thanks.
Only one enemy remains, and he's the perfect target for the enfeeble staff we got in Chapter 11. Odin gives Felicia a magic bonus that translates directly into staff accuracy. With that done, Odin can also mitigate Ryoma's high avoid stat using Heartseeker.
keep your eyes on me.
Meanwhile, Nyx puts herself in position to dual strike for Mozu.
Must I restrain myself?
Everything will be fine.
In the event of a miss with her enfeeble staff, Silas can shelter Felicia to give her a second chance.
It's all right.
As long as she doesn't use the javelin, Mozu won't be doubled by Ryoma, nor will she face any crit chance. An important consideration here is that Ryoma has Vantage. In our opening attack, we don't want to deal more than 20 damage if we can avoid it.
I'll do my best. Can we do this? Remain calm. I'm here!
Effie should use the javelin plus Mozu's dual strike to seal our victory, but we should first check that we have the necessary damage output. Effie has 22 strength, and Ryoma only has 17, so Puissance is active. Also, when Effie uses a lance against him, she will gain 2 attack, 1 point from her C rank in lances, and another point for having weapon triangle advantage at B rank. So even without factoring in the stats of her weapon, she will have at least 27 attack. The javelin's might is 6, so she actually has 33 attack against Ryoma's 13 defense. That's 20 points of damage by herself. Mozu only has to contribute 4 points, which means she needs at least 21 attack. She's already there with the Brass Naginata, but the Bronze Lance is even better. With that, we're way beyond the benchmark. If we were short, which could have happened if Nyx's dual strike had missed, then Camilla could simply move up and apply Rose's Thorns to compensate.
This could be
But
trouble.
otherwise, it's convenient to keep Camilla in reserve. When Felicia misses Enfeeble and Silas shelters her, Camilla can take Felicia and have her try again without making us wait another turn.
It's all right.
I won't let you die. Too slow.
I'm sorry.
Effie and Mozu each hit level 15, and with that, I'm pleased to announce that the Effie-Mozu friendship arc is over. After this battle, they'll achieve A+ supports with each other. With a friendship seal, Effie will radically redefine her role in the team, becoming an archer just in time for a map with a ton of flying enemies to shoot down. We haven't gone too wild with class changes so far, but very soon things will get a lot crazier. Effie is just the beginning. For her part, Mozu will go away for a while, but when she comes back, she will come back strong. Bow access after promotion will make her so much better, and I can hardly wait to put her in action again.
Oh.
Elise! Azura.
Ah. I don't know.
No. Elise.
Well,
I genuinely thought this bit about Gunter was added by the mod, but no, it's there in the base game. It really has been a long time since I've watched the cutscenes in Conquest.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that's not foreshadowing anything, but I do know that next time we will find the traitors in our midst, root them out, and repel the Hoshidans from our continent once and for all. See you there.